Hi guys, welcome to Authentic by Magoma. This is Africa's leading platform transforming minds and creating mental shifts through content that informs, enlightens, and entertains. And I'm super stoked today because I have two guests with me, brilliant human beings. They're going to introduce themselves. Today's conversation is around mental health and cyberbullying. On Tek4Peace, we have been discussing how to use digital spaces to promote peace, as well as create safe spaces for everyone on these platforms. And that's why we're here today. How can we do more of that? But first of all, we've got to break it down. What is actually happening on this platform? And the two people that I have today have a background in the conversation that we're going to be talking about. And they're going to tell us a little bit more about it before we just delve into the conversation. Hi there, both of you.
Hello.
We'll start from their introduction. Let us know what you do, who you are, and why you're here.
Well, my name is Aaron Tek4Peace. I'm the founder and I say CEO of a nonprofit called DPX. And DPX is a business plan for life. It's something that we're teaching children, young adults, older adults, to have a plan for life. It's changed a lot of people's lives. It's going to change. My DPX is to by the time 3 generations is to end poverty, and that's where I am driving DPX, is to end poverty.
To end poverty.
To think rich.
Oh, so not actual poverty, or is it like creating a paradigm shift among people?
So it's kind of like it's like this. Even if you're poor, if you think rich, and my background is poor, we were poor growing up. So if you think rich, you'll be rich. And I don't mean rich in finance. I'm just saying thinking
rich.
Being rich.
Yeah.
Thought. You'll never feel poor.
Okay. Do you think rich?
I don't know, but yeah, I'm in that situation where I'm trying to define what is rich.
What
and
is
once
rich?
I get the meaning of what's rich, then I'm able to place myself. So maybe you can start
It's like finance. It's like being confident.
All right.
When I say rich in flavor, rich in personal growth.
I'm rich.
Yeah.
Very rich.
Actually, not about
we're
the money.
wealthy.
Not about the money. Not about the money. I was not rich. I would be successful. I was going to be happy.
I didn't know I'm that rich, man. That's amazing.
Okay, as we get to your wealth and riches, please let us know who you are.
So it's really nice to be here and just meeting you and placing myself in that level. It feels good to know that there's a way of looking at it rather than just the way we look at it, in our daily kind of situations and perspectives. And the world has been grappling with this issue of poverty. And in 2015, we had the global leaders meet in New York, sign up as a very ambitious plan called the Sustainable Development Plan Goals. And the SDGs were to kind of help the world come together and, put their resources towards meeting these ambitious goals that was to end extreme poverty. It was to ensure that there is justice. It was to ensure that there is no hunger and people can live in perfect health situations while they care for their environment. And these were called SDGs. So having participated in a lot of conversations at the UN level, out of the UN level, civil society level, I came back to Africa and I realized we didn't have a lot of conversations around that goal, despite our leaders taking the forefront in signing the agreement. And so that inspired me to come up with an organization called Africa for SDGs as a movement. And my intention was just to see how do we provide spaces for young people to participate. Because when I was in Denmark, I realized that the leaders insisted that this conversation should be done by younger people.
Yes.
Because SDGs are Vision 2030.
Yes.
If you share with us, just us, then we're just going to die with it.
Exactly.
So share with these younger people, and by then, there will be the people in these positions to make the changes, to make the decisions that will, transform the community. So I came back home and people didn't know, government leaders didn't know what it is and stuff like that. And I realized the government had spent a lot just to get the president to New York to sign already. So this should be something we should, invest in. And that's how we started Africa for SDGs to see how young people can then create innovative ideas that are implementable, scalable, and transferable, but at the same time meeting the local social, economic, and environmental challenges that face Africa.
Wow,
So that's what I do. So I'm the CEO and the founder of Africa for SDGs. We are operating in 30 African countries, and we just came from New York, the UN General Assembly meetings here and there. So we are excited. We've come with a lot of talks, but I love this bench because this is where the action is being. This is where the action is being talked about. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me here.
The pleasure is all mine. And I mean, today we're going to be discussing about young people and how they can get involved. I like that you've touched on the social issues when trying, because you said it's ambitious. The SDGs are very ambitious. So when trying to achieve or implement the SDGs, the 17 goals, so then how can we get more young people to be involved from a social perspective and create awareness around that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because if you look at it in Africa at the moment, Africa is the youngest continent. And I love saying that because my repetitive aspect of it is emphasis. It's not information. It's something that I want everybody to know, that we are the youngest continent in the whole world. And whoever has the youth has the future. We just need to ask ourselves, what type of future do we want to have for Africa? And that type of future can only be explained by the kind of investments that we put on our young generation. So I love the fact that 41% of 1.3 billion people, which is the total population of Africa, are below 15. And if you ask me, we are almost 50% below 18, if you ask me. In Kenya alone, here in my country, Kenya, we have 43% over 15 years old. So out of the 60 plus million people, 43% are below 15. So I love working with young people because I'm not just seeing them as young as they are or should be. I'm seeing them as an investment for the future that I want to experience in my old age. So they need. I think young people are also tired of being statistics. I think they want to be part of the force that contributes to the kind of future that we want to see. So first and foremost, we must be able to define to young people what kind of future will make sense for them, what kind of future will be sustainable for them, and then what kind of instruments and tools can we put in their hands to be able to catalyze that kind of future. Otherwise, if we don't do that, they will just think that future is a time coming, but they don't have to worry about the quality of that. So we've seen many old people aging off in Africa, but they're aging in a lot of regrets. They're aging with a lot of untapped potential. They're aging with a lot of unharnessed, capabilities and capacities. And they're also aging with a lot of buried knowledge and wisdom. So my goal really, and my desire and my, dream is that I don't need to lose the wisdom of the old. Because to get to that point, you've seen it all, you've experienced it all, you've had it all, and you've got a wealth of wisdom. But I also don't want to despise the passion of the youth. Because you might not have all the wisdom, but you got the energy, you got the catalyst that can bring into practical, into practice all the learnings. And so my challenge in this pursuit is that the older people are not free to talk about their failures. And so people are trying to build ambitions based on people's success without a roadmap on how to dodge the kind of inhibitions or things that will make you not get there. So if you drive, my friend will tell you about an app in the US called Wave. And I love Wave because it tells you there's a car on the road, there's a speed, there's a police, there's a police officer there. So there's just, it's like giving you a clue. It's like giving you in Kenya we call it Mwakenya. It's like somebody has given you an exam, but it's saying, oh, so the second question is gonna be hard, or the third one is gonna give you more marks. So you're driving and you feel like you have a companion who's just not informing, but is also transforming how you think around the journey.
Yeah.
So I think that's what young people need in Africa. I need to know that my dad did this, and when he reached this part, and he had it wrong in the marriage, it affected all the financial goals he had, or he had it wrong in this, it affected all this, and that. So that I'm able to say, oh, I'm almost becoming like him, and if I become like him, and I do the same things he did, I'm going to experience the kind of life he did. So that's what I would say, like, let's put our young people to, I'm sorry, I'm going to be speaking a lot into that, but
Dante's about to pinch you.
I know. An example is this. An example is this idea of giving all kids a medal because they participated. Life is not everybody's participating in life, but everybody participates differently. To a point that when you want to reward everybody for just existing, then you are coaching entitlements for existence.
Yeah, that's true.
You are not coaching. You're not mentoring. Entitlement for value addition. So young people feel entitled that they are young. They need to participate, but you ask them, okay, so if you participate, what are you bringing on the table? Yeah,
I really like that, and I think I'm going to take it to Dante right now. He's speaking about, Joe is speaking about ensuring that we have the right instruments and the tools for young people to ensure that we have a sustainable future. And right now, what we are facing is the rise of technology platforms, just to take it back to the topic around mental health. The problem is that there's a very thin line between using digital platforms and then using them to show a particular side of your life, maybe the good side alone and not the bad side. So we have young people comparing their existence to what they see on digital platforms. How do we deal around that? How do you deal with that? And what is DPX doing? Because I believe that the little I've heard about DPX, you are part of the solution, and the instruments just take it up.
Yeah. So it's funny. My claim to fame was on Instagram. I'm the kind of guy that I'll wake up every morning and I'll say something, that I think is profound or something, like, hey guys, hey family. But one of the things I always talk about, especially when it comes to the kids, is chasing after money or chasing after these fake dreams that people have. You look at Instagram, you see these guys with all this money throwing up, these girls, these big houses and all this stuff. And in my book, it's not real. None of that is real. Real to me, when you're young, is that you have to build a process for you to be successful if you want all that stuff. I tell people, don't ball out in your 20s, don't ball out in your 30s, ball in your 40s and 50s. Because you have processes that are set up to get you there. Chasing money at 20 and 30 is not going to help you in your 40s and 50s when you need to be, when you can really ball out. I started DPX because we were really poor. In the United States, we were really poor. Or my family, a lot of people say in Africa, like, oh, how poor, in the United States. But we were really poor. Government assistance. My mother passed away when I was young, so my father raised us, and it was really difficult because my father was always gone. We had talked about earlier about parents, working and come home. Well, there was never anybody home when I was a kid, so we were always on our own. And the thing though. One of the things that I believed is I always thought positive about myself. I always thought that no matter what was going to happen, I was going to be successful. The problem is I had a lot of learning disabilities. I'm dyslexic. I had a speech problem. I was in special ed. I had all these negative things that were working for me. And I always used to think, man, if I just had a positive role model, if I had somebody that I could look up to. Because again, my father, I looked up to him because he was a worker. But that was it. There was never any of that. So I had to be a self-motivator, even though I didn't, even though there was a lot of the negative that was put in front of me. When I graduated from high school, it was difficult because I didn't realize I wasn't as good as a student as I was. So when I went to college, it was difficult. I ended up dropping out of college. And it was, I said to myself, God, I cannot believe that I cannot get what's going on, as far as, learning. But I knew that I was going to be successful. I knew it. There was something that was driving inside that was driving me to be successful. So one of the things that I would do is, for me, for learning, was writing things down. When we talked about DPX earlier, you got to have a plan. DPX stands for Dream, Plan, Execute. Most kids don't have these dreams. They don't think about, or they have dreams, but they don't have a way of achieving dreams. So one of the things, and when you were talking earlier about like the kids are our future, the kids absolutely are our future. I mean, if I got 30 more good years, I'll be blessed. Thank God for 30 more good years. My granddaughter has 85 more years. She's the future. My daughter's the future. You're the future. You're the future, young guy.
You can say that again. I'm the future.
Can you say Lord? Point.
For the guys in the back.
You guys are the
For those who thought I'm too old, I got a future.
young guy over here. But that's what DPX is about. DPX is that you can, and I like to explain it, but it's like this. You're a 10-year-old child. You're growing up, you're being bullied. You don't have parents, or you have one parent. And you have no role model. You have no one to talk to. DPX is your business. It's your personal business plan for life, starting young or even as old as me. Doesn't matter. So you're 10 years old. You want to be a doctor. You'll probably be a doctor if you're 10 and maybe 15 years. So your dream, your dream, the D in the DPX's dream or goal is to be a doctor. So now for 15 years, that's what your DPX is going to be for 15 years. You're going to write a plan out for 15 years how to become a doctor. And typically, to become a doctor, you got to go to college, obviously. You got to take biology. There's a whole bunch of disciplines that you have to do to become a doctor. So you're going to write it down. You're going to put that plan together. You're going to think about your plan every single day. So that's the key point about DPX, is that you have to wake up thinking about what your dream is to make it a reality. Some people can have a dream and maybe they'll follow it, maybe they won't. But if you really want to follow, or you really want your dream to come true, you have to think about it every single day. And that's what I did as a child. That's what I did as a young adult, as an adult. I used to work at Tesla. I worked for Elon Musk. I used to have to every couple of weeks meet with him, explain what my department did. And I used to think to myself, how could this guy who barely graduated from high school, didn't go to college, I had learning disabilities, I had all these things that really would set back a person, I guess you could say, I wouldn't say a normal person, but a person, set them back. I know a lot of people that went the other way. How could he be sitting across from Elon Musk right now? Giving him his plan on how he's going to make Tesla a better facility or a better company. How could that happen? And I always thought, I always would think back to always having a plan. That was the key to it, is having a plan. Teaching myself chemistry, at 20 years old. We didn't have, you gotta remember now, when we talk about old here, I was born in the 60s, okay? We had no internet. There was encyclopedias, I had to read. I had to really rely on other people to kind of help me, understand what the words were and all that. So for me, and anyone knows me, the passion I have about DPX, and when we talked about rich, or when we had mentioned or give the definition of thinking rich, I always, my whole life, I felt rich in my mind. I didn't define it as being financially rich. It was just that I felt like I was just as smart as all the other children that had parents and had, had eat the right meals every single day, or just were normal. I always thought that about it. It didn't matter if we didn't have the nicest house or the nicest clothes. It didn't matter. That's the way I thought. And that's what I want to teach children, especially, but even, adults too, that it does not matter where you came from, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much schooling, knowledge, anything that you have. What matters is that what you think about yourself. And if you have a dream, you can achieve your dream by just having a plan. That's it. It's just as simple as that. There isn't anything complicated, any strange formulas or anything else for you to achieve your dreams. It's just that if you have a dream, or whatever your dream is, write your dream down, think about it every day, and then every day do something to achieve your dream. And just keep that. I mean, that's the thing. I have 5 DPXs right now running. The main one, and then we talked about it earlier, was what is ended poverty in 3 different generations. I know it's not going to happen in mine. When I say poverty, I'm talking about like poor, poverty, like what I see in the different countries that I've been in. That's what I'm talking about. 3 generations. I feel we can do it if the people, the children, the young adults will buy in, because the old cats like me, we're set in our ways. We've already achieved the things that we're going to achieve. We're sitting back and happy and everything else. But it's the kids, the young people that are driving the future, and they're the ones that can make the change. And that's what DPX is about. That, and thank you for letting me explain all that. I know there's a lot to it. And just I'm going to kick it back to you, but back to the mental health part of it. There's a lot of, I know that when I was growing up, especially, there was really not a lot of talk about mental health at that time. There's more now. I talk about it now, but I've seen more now that I'm in YouTube game, I'm in Instagram. I see people telling me they're freaking out, they have anxiety. I got anxiety when I first started doing YouTube because I'm up there trying to make these videos that everybody likes and stressing out about it. And I'm thinking, why am I stressing out about this? This doesn't make it, but knowing where I came from is different than a lot of the younger people that don't have the experience that I had. And like what you had said about not having the role models or not having somebody that can show you the way. That's kind of my role now, is that I want to do that. But mental health, to me, is next to understanding what your dreams are. Because once you know what your dreams are and you have to achieve them, that mental health part or that mental side of you is going to come out, and it's either going to be go left or go right. You want it to be, to where you're thinking right and you can achieve your dreams. But mental health is really, really important. That's why I'm glad you're here, because I really wanted someone that specializes or understands that part of what we're doing.
I really like what you.
Sorry,
I really like what you said. Especially around children and planning. But now we have a problem, because what defines success? What is success? When I am sitting down to plan and I'm being a member of DPX, I want to achieve the SDGs, So what defines success, and what metrics do I use to know that, okay, at this age, when I get here, this is success? Because you're saying it's not financial riches alone that we're looking at. So what exactly are we looking at? And how can we ensure that young people especially understand this? Because we're in a generation, in my era right now, we're in a generation where most people are defining success based on finances alone, not how they feel about themselves, their well-being, are they healthy? It's just, what is in my bank account?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I am in a position to comment to that, because I'm as guilty as charged. That has been part of my, part of my understanding as well. I'm not saying that's what I understand now, but that has really consumed a lot of time from me, because I never knew that there was a better way. And I think it's because that's what we've been mentored to think. And I think it's, I would say that, well, let me, in their defense, we have seen in the defense of the young people, in their defense, they watch what people with money are capable of doing. And they watch the outcome of what is being done with the money, but nobody is showing them the process that it takes to get the money. And then nobody is bold enough to show them the end of such people. So it's very easy. I mean, if somebody is posting on Instagram, is posting glamorous stuff, is posting all this stuff, and then when things are not good, they don't exist in that ecosystem, so you don't know what they're going through. And that's why we have a lot of our celebrities coming out here, especially in Kenya, coming out. They do good music, good stuff, and they're driving big and riding with the who is who, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them. Then the next time you hear from them, they're nursing depression, they are suicides and stuff like that. And that's where we're going, because suicide rates are increasing in our country, it's increasing in the continent, and it's increasing in the demographics that we never expected that would experience such. When you have young kids committing suicide because of the number of the workload of homeworks, the looks, or the number of followers and stuff like that, it's just because we have failed, or we are failing to mold to model the process and to make them feel confident that it's okay not to be okay. It's just not okay to remain not okay, and that's really important, because if I'm raising my kid and I'm just telling the kid, you have to be okay all the time, then I won't be able to gain the wisdom to make him okay when he's not okay. And so what does it think? It thinks, oh, the last thing I should do is just, I'm done. I should just die. And what do the rest of us do? We say, oh, suicide is so selfish. And I want to say, suicide is not selfishness. Suicide is not. People think it's a form of selfishness, but I have experienced that point where I felt like everything is done and I want to just get over with life, and I have attempted suicide. And if you were to tell me, oh, that's so selfish of you, I would be like, oh, what am I selfish? There's nothing
What did I take away from
there is
you?
nothing self that is remaining. That's why I want to get rid of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because suicide is a symptom. It's somebody trying to tell you that all this while I've been carrying these weights, but now I've reached a point where all I see is the weight crashing me down, and I just don't want to let it crash me down. At least the only thing that I still have power over is to do it my way.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, the people, when we are crying over that weight, they're busy either making jokes of the weight, they are busy despising the weight, they're busy telling us how we are men enough, we should man up, they're busy telling us how if you went to school, it would be easier, they're busy telling us what if, and we are already out of options to do it differently. You know, so I think for me it's like, how do we watch these psychotic breaks? At what point do we say you need my help, and at what point also do we protect ourselves from being taken advantage of?
I really like that. And you know, especially in the African context, and Dante is going to tell us, like from a global perspective, we still have a lot of stigma around speaking out about whatever you're feeling, especially for men. I am definitely a feminist and all about women empowerment, but unfortunately, we're now seeing very many men committing suicide. And that's because there's a tendency to conform to traditions like man up, as you said, or this is not a manly act, or why are you going to see a therapist? There's a lot of stigma around it. So how then do we ensure that we become part of the solution? And when do we recognize that I'm feeling this way? This is the symptom. As you say, suicide is a symptom, So when do I know to tell a friend that this is how I feel? And then now we're going to get back to cyberbullying, Because, you know, I would be feeling a particular way. I feel really down about something that happened to me. And when I share it on social media, especially for people who already have a following, you're either told that you're ungrateful. How could you be saying that, yet you already have a job? There are people who don't have a job. Comparing people's lives to that material wealth that they possess, or how could you be feeling that yet you still have rent, you still have food on your table, as if you choose to feel this way? How do we balance it out?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, being from the United States and hearing that story in Africa, you know, how I came to Africa to learn about Africa. A lot of people say, hey, you live in the United States, how are you gonna talk about Africa? How are you gonna tell what an African man, you know, thinks? It's like, all right, I'm gonna come out here. And it's funny you say that, because it's so true. It's not so much in the United States. Far as like, I'm gonna tell you a story about my son. My youngest son, a friend committed suicide. And actually, twice. When it happened the first time, he knocked on my door. It's like 3 a.m. Knocks on my door. He said, "Dad, can I talk to you?" I was like, "Yeah, come on." Talks to me. And he tells me what's going on. And the first thing I thought to myself was like I've never had this conversation with my father before. My father and I, you know, he was a hard worker. He did his thing, put food on the table, but that was it. But with my son and I, we have this relationship to where he listens to me. He listened from a young age. Even when I didn't think he listened to me, he listened to me from a young age, because I was always honest with him about everything, like literally everything. I didn't hold back. I didn't say, hey, you better be this, or you better be a doctor, you better go to school, I didn't say any of that. I would be honest with them and explain them the situation, that if you don't do certain things, this is what basically is what's going to happen. And when you become 18, it's your problem, it's not my problem anymore if you don't want to do X, Y, and Z. So we've always had the relationship where we were always really close. You know, he could talk to me. And he actually told me, he goes, I didn't think I'd be able to talk to you, but, you know, he said, I listened to everything that you said. And I said, wow, that as a father, you know, that meant everything to me because I didn't have that in my relationship. So far as what you guys were saying about how the parents are and all that, yeah, I got all that. But when it came to the mental health side of even helping him, because he's strong, he's very, very strong individual, but very sweet, he's very tender. And that's the way you need to be. You need to be sweet and tender when you're dealing with situations like this, especially traumatic experiences. I mean, I could imagine, you know, coming and seeing your friend getting ready to, you know, end his life, and you stop him from doing that, you know what I mean? And didn't have to deal with it. He came home, he was just so numb for a week, and then when it actually happened, he felt the stress, and he felt the mental, the mental part of the anguish of what
it's
was
like secondary PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. And then to find out the whole story about him, and you know, then I found out like really like what caused all that, and a lot of it had to do with the peer stuff, stuff that he felt he either couldn't talk to his friends or talk to somebody. He had really caring parents, so it wasn't like he grew up the way I did, but it was just something about him, and it made me sad because as a father, I'm like, man, if my son, is depressed or he has these issues or he's dealing with whatever, I want him to be able to talk to me. And I think there's a lot of parents out there that the kids can't talk to them. They're dealing with whatever because they put so much on them. And I haven't had a situation where I could talk to parents, especially even like African parents. Someone had mentioned, I told the story at another event, and they're like, hey, I wish we could talk to the parents. And if I could talk to parents, I would basically, even the African parents, it does not matter. Nowadays, our children are so far ahead of us, advanced in the way that they think, that they have to deal with. I didn't have to deal with none of this stuff. Cyberbullying and all of this stuff.
Yeah, it was, switch off the phone.
Like, go home, you gotta go to school, you gotta deal with it.
You don't even have a phone in the first place. So you're like, oh, yeah, what is that? What is cyberbullying?
I unplugged the phone. But I didn't have all that stuff. I didn't have to turn on, Instagram and seeing, someone making fun of me or something or whatever, and dealing with that. So the parents, to me is, when it comes to, we're talking about the kids, the adolescents, the parents have to be more aware. It doesn't matter if you're working your butt off and everything. You can't expect your children just to be satisfied with the fact that you put
food on the table,
whatever. The stuff that they're dealing with is stuff that you didn't have to deal with. I didn't have to deal with. That now it's like you gotta be more aware of what's
the reality.
What's happening?
What's really happening. And I'm sad to hear that that you said that you.
Yeah, I tried, and I've got lots of friends. What really inspired me to do what I'm doing was really partly what I've gone through. Like, I wasn't really raised up like a poor kid, so I can't, in the context of the standards of Africa, I was raised well. Food and all that wasn't really like a big problem, but it became at a time, like when I was approaching my teenage, then things shifted. I lost my dad, and that went with all the wealth and stuff like that. It happens in African context. But I see another kind of tension and pressure that creates a lot of depression for young people, and it's religion. So when you are born in an African context where we are really living in, like if you're from the north, you're expected to be a Muslim. If you're from the sub-Saharan, you're supposed to be a Christian. We are Christian. Being a Christian is the Christian thing to do. It's not like being a Christian it's not negotiable. You're born in that context. And what happens is that kind of creates an ecosystem. So you find yourself existing in a different ecology. You're existing where there is a deity, which is God, the supreme God, and then you're feeling like the way African religion is the way religion was inherited from the missionaries was that it is more prescriptive. It is like this. And in any form and language, this creates, I'm not fitting. I'm not able. So if you are told, if you have all these do nots and you're measured based on them, it means that if you don't do not, then you are not. So what happens is we have had a lot of young people also now not. And let me give a little bit of context that the church is not necessarily a bad place to be, because it gives you the kind of community, gives you the kind of coaches, it gives you the kind of talks, motivations, encouragement, and all that. On the flip side, it also causes that pressure that if you're not fitting, and that can even be personality.
Yeah.
If you're an introvert, you can exist and survive in a Kenyan African church because naturally you don't talk.
Yeah.
Naturally you don't socialize. Naturally, so you become the measure for the sanguines. Be like so and so. And so what happens is, now imagine he has to deal with a natural personality and try to shrink it to fit. That's one, and the complexity of personalities. And this also reflects on how we read the Instagram, how we read, because if you're a social or an online introvert, you don't even care what people are posting.
Yeah.
That's true.
You just don't care. Like, oh yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, whatever. You can be doing that and you're done. You're doing it to pass time. But if you're a sanguine who wants to be in the action, where the action is, you have to be in the center of it all, then that really reflects on that personality. And that can really create that kind of, the feeling. And on the other side also, when the church expects you to kind of embody perfection.
Embody Christ.
I was afraid to say that because then I should embody Christ, but if you embody Christ, by the way, you won't even have mental issues, because that guy loved everybody. Like, he loved the prostitutes, he loved whatever. He was just like, good, you guys are gonna be my disciples. And people are like, oh my God, how do you even? Actually, if Jesus existed in this context, he would have depression, because we would be like, who is he hanging out with? And I think religion almost defines who should be your friend, where you should be. And there is this thing, I was growing up, my parents would make me read this verse of, you should not be found even in the appearance of evil. And you should not even walk with the people who are not righteous. So already you are with your friends, but you are judging them, or they're judging you. Sure. So nobody's going to open up.
Like, who among us is righteous?
Yeah, who among us is righteous? Right? So if I say this, they're going to judge me. So it's like, who's going to speak first? Yeah. And then that has led to a lot of suicides as well. I know in America, like, I was there and they were talking about puberty blockers and all that. I mean, they're on the extreme side of the pendulum, while we are on the extreme side where you shouldn't even be. Gay or whatever, you shouldn't even be whatever. They're on the other side. We're like, oh, you should. So I'm not saying necessarily, but they're like, oh, if you are, you can.
On both sides, we have
a need for a balance.
Yes, for balance and acceptance, as well as conversation.
Well, maybe conversations first, because otherwise people can accept. They go like, I was imagining, I went to a high school when I was in Florida. I went to this high school and they started asking me, what are some of the issues that if I came to Africa, I should expect. Yeah. So I was talking about stuff like, oh yeah, there's gonna be this. Then I realized, no, I'm not even being truthful here. Like, yeah, you're gonna be judged. You're white.
Terribly.
So you're white, you're gonna be looked at like you have money. So if you're broke, please don't come now. But if you come, and then they just I asked them, what do you think I'm thinking is different? Like, I'm here with you. Tell me now. What do you think I'm thinking is different? And one of the girls told me, like, it's just a young girl. She said, I have like guns, so I go hunting and all that. So I think in an African context, guns are for conflicts and blah, blah, blah. And maybe you don't even get guns as a personal thing that you can go like just play a sport and all that. And my eyes are already bulging. I'm like, I know this, but in the context of African conversation, have a gun. I'm like, yeah, I'll go hunt all my enemies. Anyways. And then the other kid just put his hand and said, and then he points to the other kid and say, oh, that's my boyfriend. So if I came with my boyfriend, would they judge us that we are gay couples? I'm like, I'm here and I'm judging you. So they allowed me to be vulnerable. So I was just like, I'm here and I'm already wondering, like,
what do you mean?
I know what you mean, but do you have to say that?
Like you have a
We don't
boyfriend.
even, like, why do you say? Like, you shouldn't say. We have been raised not to say what's not right for us. We've been raised, and that is why you see we are posting what we assume people need to know about us. Because people have not given us the space to post what they should know holistically about us. That I'm successful, but I'm struggling. I am successful, but I'm working hard on it. I'm insomnia, so all my nights are spent on working, and I can't spend the whole day. I had this trick when I was in high school. You should do a show about high school in Africa before you go. In high school here, we attend like it's like a single gender high school. Those were the best. If you're a girl, you're expected to go to a girls' school. If you're a boy, or you'll get pregnant through osmosis or whichever way. So even those who went to mixed school, they were always having like a different role. So what?
Pregnancy test.
Before you come in, yeah.
That is stop laughing. It's actually really serious.
So when I went to high school, I don't even know where I was going with this, but it was just so much fun in high school. I had fun in high school, but there was a time I couldn't afford some of the expensive books. We didn't have internet in high school. We don't even still have phones access in high school. So I realized that some of my rich friends had nice textbooks, very great stuff. And so I realized that the best way was to wait when they're going to bed and then read their books at night. And that's how I became used to the nightlife. So not nightlife, but night insomnia. So we would put our legs in very cold buckets of water just so that we don't sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Because if you sleep, you're missing out. So you get the book, and rich kids can be very selfish here. I don't know about in the years, but here they can be very selfish. Hey, help me with this, but I'm reading it, and they'll put it on the down, whatever. So I had to wait until they can't say no. And when you're going to bed, you're not reading it. Give me your book. So he gives you the book, and you're reading it, you're reading it, you're reading. During the day, I was everywhere. I have no books to read, so I was everywhere. I'm moving from one class to another, one game to another. And even my friends saying, oh, that guy is going to fail miserably. But you see, it's because they never allowed me to share with them that behind the scenes, I'm reading. So when I got a good grade, I was top of class, they were like, oh, come on, this is a lie. They gave you a grade for free, whatever. So the internet has not been, we have not made it a place, a safe place where we can also say our struggles without needing sympathy.
Right.
Yeah.
We cannot say our struggles without needing empathy. Because not everybody who is struggling needs to be sympathized with. Sometimes we just need to ask, since you went through this poverty, and since you're going through this, what do you think should be done differently? What do you think? There's a lot of lessons. I have seen the toughest points in my life. They have given me the greatest inspiration of wisdom.
Yeah, I agree.
Greatest inspiration of wisdom. I know how I shouldn't, but I know how I should. I also know how I should. And I think that balance is what we should. I don't know if somebody's going to come with, I know we have X, maybe somebody should come with Y, a platform where we post, just the naked truth, this is the truth, this is, guys, I'm broke, and it's okay to be broke because I'm investing.
I really like that, but now just to take you back a little bit, and for this, I have to say that I do empathize with you. That at some point you felt the need, or you were at a point where you felt like you needed to take your life, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I'm very happy that you're here with us today.
I'm alive, yeah.
Grateful.
Oh my God, yeah, I am. Pinch me. I'm alive.
Are you sure about that?
I am very sure.
So now my question is, because you mentioned creating spaces for people to be vulnerable, obviously in different ones. So what do you feel like, both of you, what do you feel like people need to do so that others can feel like it's okay for me to be vulnerable, even if it's not on digital platforms? Because you see, Twitter, X, Facebook, Meta, etc. We would not have all this cyberbullying and all this hate if the people behind the gadgets were genuinely kind people, people who took others with compassion and cared about them. So how then do we ensure the person behind the gadget actually cares? And if they have a problem, they can be vulnerable, because X without human beings is nothing.
Yeah.
You need the followers, they need the subscribers. Then before we start fighting the big tech and telling them, when I report this, when I do this, you should be taking this information down. But it's that human being on the other side who feels very courageous to spread hate. It's you and I on a gadget spreading hate and cyberbullying and bringing someone down simply because they shared that they were not okay. So how can we?
I don't know, but I'll let just say much about that. But I have a very controversial observation. And I think this is the right place to. This would be the right place to. This is the right place to test my hypothesis.
Okay.
Because he's coming from a culture that originates most of the definitions of terms. We come from a culture where we are the guinea pigs and we are observed sometimes. So we are observed, and then and I may be wrong in that, but that's just
true.
what we think. We think.
Has a show on Netflix where human beings around in the, I think, Nyanza region. There's something coming up on Netflix, so they're sending free money to.
No, it's called Give Direct. I know it. They think it's. I know. So I was applying for the job in Washington. Come on, don't talk about it. Anyway, so I want to say, who defines trauma? Because growing up, and I don't mean to insult in this context or statement. Growing up, there was almost like I felt like men had quite a bigger threshold for hurt. Being hurt, I'm just saying this. This is the controversy I'm putting here for this.
I'm just trying to understand you.
Growing up, I would tell my friend, hey, big head, whatever. Like, it was just like, hey, man, hey, like, there was just, right? I mean, it's like we have really shrunk space of existence.
So that's
we've really, no. I'm explaining it because what if we're using all these definitive terms to also kind of breed a different breed of people who you can't even touch, or you can't even, you say this, you hate me now, you say this, or you're now judging me, you say this, oh, you think because I'm black or because I'm white. Like, how can we just create a context of diversity without defining the heat between the differences? Because I think like we're almost trying to invest in a lot of how different we are than how uniquely the same we are in a different way. So growing up, I would swim and I don't know how to swim, and kids would make jokes of me, and that would be like a motivation. It was not a demotivation. Do you know what people ask me? Why are you chasing? You have a PhD, you're doing another PhD. Why are you studying and all these things? And I tell them a very, very funny story. That this girl I wanted to date, and she was from Alliance Girls. I hope she's not gonna watch this, because so she was pretty. We were in the same church. We were growing together. We loved each other. And so one day, she had a funny hair, so I didn't think she was that rich. You know how we do this financial X-ray on people, like, this is not rich.
What's the watch like?
Yeah. And she didn't care. She cared less about the worldly things in quotes, which I did anyway. So one day she said, let's walk to my place. And that was even like, oh yeah, thank God, this one is not that type of rich guy. We are walking to their home. So we walked.
I have a chance here.
We walked there, and I'm like, are you sure this is the right way? And she's like, takes a corner, gets into Lovington. We have this huge house. And I'm like, you sure this is your home? It's like, come. It's written Mbwakali, like a dog. I'm like, who will hold the dog for us? It's like the dog knows me. I'm like, this is your home. We get there, and we enter through the kitchen door. The kitchen is the size of this room. There are fridges that are humming with, I'm like, what? That's for meat. Oh, that's for chicken. I'm like, you guys are in Kenya, right? So this is your home? I asked her like 3 times. We got into the sitting room or the living room, and I thought like, wow, how come I didn't know you when I needed a girl who was really wealthy? Now I'm not looking for that. The parents walked in, and the parents are like, so who are you? And I say, I'm Joe. I thought that's how I didn't know the who are you is who are you of who. So they say, from where? So we were staying in Ngong. I said, I'm Joe from Ngong. Ngong Forest or Ngong Karen? Now, definitely, I'm not staying in Gong Karen, so I had Forest as the only option. And I'm trying to say, okay, not Gong Forest. He said, no, it's either Gong Karen or Gong
Gong
Forest. I said, okay, fine, Gong Forest, whatever. And then they started telling me all these things. And at that time, we were just from church. So I'm like, oh, I rebuke that. And they're like, hey. And the father stopped me and said, let me tell you something, my son. He was among the only 6 neurosurgeons in Eastern Central Africa. I didn't know he was Mikey Baki's neurosurgeon. So I didn't know all this info. I'm knowing later. So he's like, do you know that in the story of redemption, there was 2 thieves on the cross with Jesus? And I can hear you're a very prayerful boy. Very prayerful. And I see you. I know you understand your prayers are going to the cross, but yours are going to the thief who is unrepentant. And I'm like, what?
What do you mean?
I'm like, okay. So she didn't tell me she has a hospital in her name that is 6-story. I didn't know all these details. So she says, if you're looking for money from my daughter, you're looking for the wrong girl. I'm like, I'm not even looking for money. I'm 18, for God's sakes. Then they asked me, what is my level of education? What certificates do I have? Now, I thought they're asking me because they want to give me a job. So I was honest and I said, I don't even have any because I've not picked my certificate because I had arrears in high school. So I only have baptism certificate. And I thought that would put me in good books.
Not even confirmation.
And he was like, see, our daughter has a man we are planning for her to marry, and is in Harvard. That level of education you cannot reach. That level of, I'm like, okay, try me. You don't know me. Yeah. You see, I'm trying to use my example, my story, as an example of how you can strengthen people to be mentally strong and stable, because the world is not going to be fair. Even if we do whatever, right? You're not going to walk, don't say you're not going to walk to every space. The guys are like, oh, I love you. Here, they really tell you they love your hair, even when you don't have any. Sure. So, so people will say anything, but how strong are you? That's why I'm saying, who is defining trauma? Is it defining trauma in a way that is limiting human existence in that diversity of humanity? Or is it defining trauma in coalition of people in their differences? Because we also need to understand, how are we expressing what we would call cultural or traditional trauma? If you call me like, I would get into lifts, oh, you should hear this joke, man. I would get into lifts with some friends, and they would all pretend like they've all fainted. I'll be like, what? Your nose is too big, you're taking all the air. That would be like, if that is like body shaming, I'll be crying, but I'm like, yeah, my nose is so big, I get enough oxygen to support me. I'm going to live longer. So sometimes I've seen where kids look at all these things and it kind of motivates them to become and demotivates them from. You know what I'm saying?
Everything.
That's what I'm saying. So how do we make sure that we provide, and this is the contentious issue that I wanted to throw in a few. How do we explain the ecosystem for our differences to exist without us feeling like we are limiting the beauty of our diversity, such that I don't want that beautiful girl to just feel like, oh, if I post this, it's gonna make all the ugly girls feel bad. Let me just accept to be ugly. When I bought my first Benz, it was because a friend came and gave me a Benz ride. They said, yeah, you wanna ride? He said, give me for one day. I drove that car around. I said, what? I said, one day I'll buy this car. I wanna work hard for this. So how do we make sure that people can post to motivate?
Yeah.
And then how do we define who has the problem? The poster or the postee?
The consumer.
Yeah, like me, I was just showing off my band. Oh, now see, I'm feeling like I'm really bullied. Really bullied. So how do we make sure? That's my contentious tension here.
No, I get
and I want just to hear your thoughts on that. Because
I actually want to throw that to Dante, but before he comes, I think that we must ensure that we contextualize everything.
Yeah.
Because I think language is very, very important.
Yeah.
The way I communicate to you, I might say, hi Dante, your beard looks like this. And I might be like, oh, what's that on your face? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when bringing
I
up,
remember.
especially when bringing up probably young people
Yeah.
who are just getting into social media platforms and online platforms, because a young mind, with my knowledge, and I'm not a parent here,
Yeah.
majority of them don't know how to filter out.
Yeah.
Is this a joke? If I tell you, my friends around me, oh, you're breathing all the air. I say, like, what your friends did, that is funny because those are people who understand you and you understand them.
Yeah.
But then if someone posts that, a young person, a teenager who's just very, very extremely
be
conscious
depressed.
about their body
You'll
and their
be
physique
depressed.
and how they're coming up, and the language that we're using to tell them A, B, C, D, that really, really matters. So I get where you're coming from.
No, I wonder.
And I hear
That's a
you.
question. So I just want to
So
hear.
now I'm going to beyond context. How do we ensure? Because what you're saying is, how do we ensure we don't raise weaklings?
Yeah. And
we also don't want weaklings.
how do we ensure we don't kill people who want to motivate people with their success?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it two ways. Okay, one way is you have a child who has a parent or has parents or someone that's a role model.
Yeah.
Growing up, as a child, it's obviously confusing. Here in Africa, especially in the United States, absolutely. It depends on where you're living and everything else. I think about my children because I have children, and I think about how, I talk about how I raised them. Now, I didn't grow up the way my children grew up.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about, and this is the thing that I'm telling you, I tell everybody, and you've heard this a million times, but this is what has to happen. You as a child, you have to learn to love yourself. And I'm telling you, you've heard it a million times, you gotta love yourself, self-love, everything else.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself. And you have to have a mentor or someone to show you what that really means by loving yourself. Because you can tell a child at 6-year-old, love yourself, and say, oh, I love myself.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you say you love yourself, it's like, if you can love yourself, you can identify all the bad stuff that's in life. So if you're a young girl and you're dating and you love yourself, you're gonna know those knuckleheads. You're those guys that are trying to get try to get it.
Yes.
You're gonna know that. If you're insecure, young lady, you're ashamed of yourself or whatever, and maybe you've never been taught that. You didn't have a mom, or you didn't have a mentor that was honest with you about life. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. So then you have children that grow up with no mentors. So they have to learn it on themselves, learn in the streets, learn it from their friends. Their friends are just as insecure as they are. They have no mentors. So what happens in that situation?
Yeah.
Okay? Without the mentor.
The mentor,
Because it's about taking, you had mentioned something about being shown the way in life.
Yeah.
I personally, when it came to finances, I had no idea about finances. My father didn't teach me about finances. It took me working for very rich people to understand finances.
Yeah.
So now what I do is I teach my son. I go back to my son, Jaden. I made it very clear to him at 14 what's gonna happen in his life as far as finances. He's going to 80% of the money that he makes right now, he saves, he invests. At 18, I want him to be a millionaire by 35 years old. If he follows what I tell him to do, what I've learned from my mentors, people that understand wealth, it's going to happen for him. Don't get involved with women or young girls, or just get involved with dating until.
Let me tell you.
Says the man who is on a woman's platform.
But here's what I'm saying as a man. We're gonna keep it real.
Yeah.
Okay, when he's in his 20s, well, he's actually 19, he'll be 20. I want him to focus on building his life to where he can eventually take care of his lady, take care of his woman. I don't want him, I'm traditional. I like to have a wife, stay at home, take care of the children. The guy goes out, makes the money. He loves his wife, takes care of her, treats her like a queen, everything else. But he's the leader. He's the leader of the house. Yeah. So I want my son to think that.
No comment. Stop looking at me.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's not for everybody. I get that.
Very entitled
But
to your opinion.
I want him to be in that position
Yeah.
where he's not having babies when he's 25, 26 years old. He's not in a financial situation to where he has his credit card debt and all that. I want him really to focus on what his life is going to be like when it's time for him to get married. Again, that's a mentor. That's a father that has been there, done that, went through those roads, did all the things that he had to do, and I'm teaching him. Our youth right now, the young people, there's some out there that have really good mentors, they're going to be fine. There's some that absolutely have zero, have nothing like me, really had not any mentors to say, hey, you know, this is the way that you have to do it.
Yeah.
So when I talk to kids, like we're going to be at a children's home tomorrow, so one of the things I'm going to talk to the children about is about loving themselves and what that really means. What it means is to be strong. Think strong, mentally strong.
Yeah.
Don't worry about everything that we're talking about, these platforms and everything else.
Yeah.
Young people should use them as tools.
Yes.
You know, as tools.
Inspiration, motivation.
Not live your life. Not look at that Instagram model, that Instagram person, and say, that's me. Oh, I want this. I gotta have this, and they start getting fixated on being this person instead of just being who you're gonna be, whoever you're gonna be. I told my children, my daughter, she's the CFO of my company. Okay. I told her, I said, listen, she said, Dad, what degree should I get? I said, you should get a degree in economics. And none of my other kids listened to anything that I said about what they should get their degrees in college. All my kids went to college. When she graduated, she said, Dad, I'm getting ready to graduate. I didn't really keep track of everything. She's very responsible. I go, what degree did you get? She said, economics. I'm like, really? And that's what, and I had in my mind that I want her to come work for me. I hadn't started my business yet. I knew she was going to come work for me. And because she got that degree in economics, that's a mentor talking to my daughter, and her listening to me, being honest. The children who don't have that, again, I go back to DPX, and DPX is about that. The children who do not have these mentors, these people, because you can't, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, 15-year-old can't figure life out unless they have somebody that can teach them. Their friends, unfortunately, a lot of times it's your friends, your girlfriends, your guy friends, whatever it is, they're teaching, hey, this is how you do it or whatever. They don't have a clue. It's just what they either taught.
They're as lost as you are, or even more lost.
Completely lost. If we were to take the children, take these young children, take these young adults, and teach them that, look, guys, you gotta love yourself. You gotta feel good about yourself. You gotta be who you're gonna be, not who your parents want you to be. And parents can't be telling their kid, hey, you're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna do this. You can't say that because you never know what that child wants to be. He wants to be, if he's creative, maybe he wants to be an artist. But it does not matter if he doesn't be a billionaire artist, he's happy.
Exactly.
And then when it's all said and done, it's about being happy in life. That's how you judge your trauma. My trauma, I had a lot of trauma. I mean, I tell you some horrible stories about the things that we went through. But the bottom line is how I felt about myself when it was all said and done. And that's how it is, I think, nowadays. When I look at these young kids that are out there doing some amazing things, they feel good about themselves. A lot of them don't have the pressure that a lot of the African parents have put on them because it's about the status, about, hey, you got to be a doctor, you got to have this wealth, you have to have all that. And it's the same way in America too. Trust me, there's parents that put it on their kids and everything else. But the ones that are well-adjusted, the ones that I feel that have that future, that are going to be happy and be productive, are the ones that think strong about themselves. They love themselves. That's to me the most important thing that you should be teaching your children is loving yourself. All that other stuff is going to work itself out. It'll all work itself out. If you're think about it, you're 18 years old, you're really positive about life, positive about yourself, you feel good about yourself, you're going to be successful. I mean, I don't even doubt that you're going to be successful if you feel that way. But if you're all depressed and you're feeling sad and you feel like that your friends, think this of you and you're worried about what this person thinks. I didn't care what anybody thought about me when I was 18 years old. I could care less. I did the worst jobs. I did the worst. I mean, I used to, when people saw me in between 18 to say 26, I would probably look like a homeless man because I didn't care. I was out there hustling, I was learning, I was doing all things. I didn't care what any of my friends, all my friends from high school, I never kept track of those guys. I didn't care because all I wanted to do is be successful. But I felt really, really good about myself. That was the one determining factor for me being successful, is how I felt about myself. So for me, when it comes to children, it comes to the motivation comes to all that, it starts right here. If I can't love myself, if I can't feel good about myself, I can't pick who's going to be a good a person that's going to be spending the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
I'm going to go from person to person. I'm going to go to this woman to try to find this and that and everything else. When realistically, they should be coming to me. They should say, hey, you know what, I want to be with that guy right there. Because you know what, he's positive. He doesn't walk around sad and moping around because he feels good. And again, no disrespect to anybody that's going through what they're going through. But you understand what I'm saying? No, I'm just saying.
He disrespects and then goes like, no disrespect.
But I'm just saying. I'm going to rewind a little bit. What I'm saying is
the no offense bit.
I'm just saying, this was my way of dealing with it, my thought, the way I raised my children, the way I talk to people, is that if you're confident about the way that you feel about yourself, happy in who you are, then everything's going to work itself out.
I think maybe before we lose that thought, I think I agree. It's really like, because you might not stop people from posting. You might not stop people from, but it's just like they say, you can't stop, a bird from flying over your head. But if you've got, you need to be able to stop it from building a nest over on your head. So I think it's very, very important that we raise young people to be strong. Like I got a son called Jaden too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think what I want to see that my Jaden become is somebody who is strong, somebody who is able to, and he embodies that a lot, because the mentoring and the coaching, for me, the mentoring and coaching that I do is not to make you feel good because you're being protected from the worst. It's to make you feel strong, that you can face the worst and still come out. Yeah.
Have the tools,
And one thing I've realized is young people, there's these 3 things they seek, or maybe 4, but I'll mention maybe 1 or 2, is that sense of community, and that sense of mastery, and the sense of purpose. If you combine those 3 things, they still get back to what he's saying. Like, the community that you seek then is defined by the values that you believe in, that makes you the stronger person. So that you see yourself as this beacon of light, you see yourself as a lighthouse, that you're not scared, because you are the source of that encouragement, you're the source of that, and you need to build that from inside, and that attracts the community. So that builds the community. And I've met young people who are like, oh, what's that? What's X? What's Instagram? What's this? And there's a generalization that everybody's on this, but there are people who don't find value in them.
Yeah.
They could be in them, but they don't even the last time they posted or checked. Not because they don't like, but it doesn't add value to them. And they have developed their community around people who don't make them feel like they need to look for those ecosystems to find their friends. Their friends are here. Their friends are coding. Their friends are investing with them. Their friends are hustling with them. So then, if they're to look for their friends, they look for them where such things exist.
Where you see value, you give value.
Yeah. So what defines you? What gives you that sense of power? Feeling like this defines me will always conquer you. And so if it is positive thinking, wealth making, whatever, then that wealth conquers you and then you become it. If it is comparative thinking, I want to be better than, then you become competitive, and that's where you feel bad. Because you think that when he posts or she posts, she's trying to show how better she is, when that's not the case.
Yeah.
And then the final part of that is mastery. If you don't have something that you've built to contribute, you'll always feel inadequate because you are a consumer, and before you analyze the product you're about to consume, another one has come out and another one has come out. So you're not stable even in your production as a human being in terms of value. So what I try to do is I try to pick them from where he's left. Like, you love yourself. Now, what type of community are you building around yourself? Because that's going to be contagious. Exactly. If you're a good guy, you're going to attract good guys. Bad people are allergic to good people. They don't want to be around them because you reflect badly on what they're not. But good people are always confident even around bad people because they know they're reflecting what should be, you know. So what do you build? What do you build? The community you build. Then the community you build becomes like, you know, like Lego, like when you play blocks, one block, you know, stacks into another. And if they fit perfectly, you can build a house or whatever. And then what happens? Whatever you've built defines the purpose of that community.
Yeah.
So if you have built a community where, dude, here we are honest with each other. Dude, here we are like this. Dude, here we are like this. So what happens is now your community, you're attracted as an individual. They become a community. They start attracting a different sense of purpose. We exist for this. So if you're looking for people who can do this, then we are here. He's part of an initiative. They have a car wash. He's part of, they have started a photography. They have started this and that. And so they didn't feel like, why am I leaving this to go to unknown? When people don't have what they have mastered, then they will follow everything.
Yeah.
They will follow everything. They will follow everyone. And that's where also that bullying can come in.
Yeah, I get you. Thank you very much. My goodness, this has been amazing. And Dante has a YouTube channel, by the way, Straight Talk with Aaron Dante.
Aaron Dante.
Oh, Aaron Dante.
Check me out.
Yeah, you should check him out. And
John. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just waiting.
Oh, Dante and John.
John, yeah. Africa First Degrees, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to give some dried that joke, but I'll keep it to myself. I'm going to keep it to myself.
For us, when we leave the dads.
The dads, I'm going to leave it to you guys. Thank you very much for coming to Authentic Bamagoma and Tek4Peace and just having this conversation before we're kicked out, literally, from this space that I'm very grateful for. We are at Lava Latte in Nairobi, Kenya, just State House Road. You should check them out. You should definitely come here. It's gorgeous. This space is really, really beautiful. Please do come here, buy something, have coffee. It's a beautiful space for other creatives as well. And as we wind up, I'm just going to request Dante and Joe in that order to share the parting shot for us on the conversation around mental health and cyberbullying. Quick one, 1 minute.
Love yourself.
Love yourself.
I think that's it. I mean, you love yourself. All that cyberbullying, all the negative stuff you're dealing with in your life right now, you'll be able to handle that. Honestly, just learn to love yourself.
I would tell you what I always do. Just switch it off. That thing has a button, man. Just switch it off. Look for some. Yeah, hike a mountain. Talk to some. Switch it off and find somebody to talk to. It's always nice. And you don't even need to talk to you about your problem. You can just talk about anything. Before you know it,
it's all
you're feeling good. Yeah.
Find solutions. Whatever is in your mind, you attract.
Yeah.
Totally.
One more thing I'll leave you with. I always tell people when you're having a bad day, call someone to make their day. It makes you feel.
Feels good. Feels not important. Yeah.
You're having it. Call your mom up. Call your dad up. Call your brother up.
I should call my mom.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Please do like, subscribe, and share before switching it off. Then you can do that. Thank you very much.